Do you like Dragon Ball? If you grew up watching this show, you'll understand why so many fans, including myself, absolutely adore it. As a kid, I would eagerly wait for the weekends just to catch a single 20-minute episode on TV. Growing up in Indonesia, I actually got used to hearing Goku speak Indonesian, which looking back is pretty funny.
Kau mau membalas dendam? Ayo, keluarkan seluruh kesaktian.
Kau jangan banyak bicara. Ayo hadapi aku!
From his first transformation into a Super Saiyan against Frieza to mastering Ultra Instinct at the end of Dragon Ball Super, every moment of this series shaped my teenage years. And as this show grew in popularity, gamers like us were blessed with tons of video game adaptations, some absolute classics, and others that are questionable. To honor the legendary Akira Toriyama, I decided to take on a massive challenge, playing every single Dragon Ball game and rating them. Since the show revolves around 7 Dragon Balls, I'll be using a 1 to 7 rating system, 1 ball being the absolute worst and 7 being the best of the best. Stick around until the end to find out which Dragon Ball game reigns supreme. And this video took me forever to make, so if you enjoy it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. Without further ado, let's begin. Dragon Daihi Q is the first Dragon Ball console video game ever released. The game is a top-down shoot-'em-up where players control Goku as he rides the flying Nimbus, battling enemies and collecting Dragon Balls hidden at the end of each stage. Goku can attack with the Kamehameha or his power pole. The Nimbus moves in a fun, bouncy way, almost like a marshmallow floating on water. As for the power pole, well, let's just say its design is a bit questionable. Destroying objects reveal familiar characters like Bulma, who provides power-ups, or Master Roshi, who challenges Goku in a fighting minigame to enhance his Kamehameha. The game is as simple as it gets, and if I were a gamer in this era, I'd definitely clock it, bro. I'd give it a solid 3 out of 7 Dragon Balls. This is the second video game based on the Dragon Ball series and the first Dragon Ball game produced and distributed by Bandai. Shenron no Nazo features 2D overhead stages where Goku battles enemies, transitioning to side-scrolling sections for boss fights. Goku looks a bit better in this game with his skin having a normal creamy tone. His running animation is a highlight though for me, reminding me of a classic cartoonish style from Bugs Bunny. I mean, just look at this. I think his hair looks a bit off, as if he forgot to style it. The environments are a lot more expansive and varied. Unfortunately, Goku can only use either punch or his pole to attack, which is quite similar to the previous one, but the previous one at least had that little ki blast. It gets quite repetitive, so I'll give this game 4 balls. I'll rate these 3 games together since they all follow the same story but cover different sagas. They also share the same gameplay mechanics. The games follow a board game format with battles decided by cards, which is honestly not my favorite thing. The player controls Goku, moving around a board to reach a target destination while encountering various characters. Some provide information, while others must be fought. Each battle's outcome is determined by the cards drawn, with actions shown through animated fights. The animations and character designs look better. These types of games are not really my cup of tea. It feels more like a card game than anything. They do have that addictive feel to them, so I'll give it 3 balls. My gosh, brothers and sisters, how many card games do they need to make? I will combine this game Kyoshu Saiyan with the second game Gekishin Frieza. They are essentially the same. As much as I'm not a fan of card games, I have to admit that the real animations for the attacks and battles for this game is so much more engaging. It's a nice touch compared to just seeing static images of Goku in attack poses. The designs of Yamcha and Krillin are spot on. They really capture the essence of the characters from the comic perfectly. Because of these improvements, I'll give them both 5 Dragon Balls. This one though is definitely a much better version. While it shares a similar playstyle, you can actually see Goku in the world and control him freely, which makes it feel less like a board game. I really enjoy this game and would definitely finish it if I didn't have 8,000 other Dragon Ball games to review. The character designs are clearer and better and the fights feel much more polished. I'd rate this game 6 out of 7 Dragon Balls. Finally, we get to the first ever Dragon Ball fighting game. It was unique for its special card reader attachment for the NES, the Day-Touch Joint ROM system. I think I pronounced that wrongly, but whatever. This thing required special cards to add characters and items to the game. I feel like consoles back in the day, they're so creative in incorporating physical things with digital things, and I think it's literally the best thing in the world. Gameplay wise, this one is the hardest to control. Characters either move too fast or too slow, and it's tough to land hits because your punch range is just so short. You have to carefully maneuver to get close enough just to land a hit. You can fly and shoot ki blasts, but with the unresponsive controls, you end up just doing whatever works. The worst part is the health system. Instead of a health bar, they give you these numbers, which makes it so difficult to track your health or the opponents while fighting. Like, brother, I don't want to do math while gaming. I'll give this one a 2 out of 7. Dragon Ball Z, that came out in 1993, is a video game for arcades. The game's cabinet was unique, shaped like a robot with markings resembling Goku's gi, and it housed the monitor and controls. You have 8 playable characters from the Frieza saga. It uses 4 buttons and a 16-direction joystick with gameplay similar to the Street Fighter series. By far, this game has the best graphics, the colors perfectly match those in the manga and comics, and the character designs and animations are much smoother than Gekito Tenkaichi Budokai. This game gets 4 balls. Now you might ask me, how the heck do you have access to all these games? There's actually a website that allows you to play all these very old Dragon Ball games, or any old classics for that matter, and I will leave a link down in the description below if you want to check that out. Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden is a Street Fighter 2 style fighting game where players battle one-on-one. I'm going to combine this review with the other 2 games in the Butoden series, Butoden 2 and Butoden 3, since they are essentially the same game with different characters. It's clear that fighting games were becoming more popular, with Dragon Ball being a $1 million IP. Despite the popularity at the time, the gameplay was very frustrating. Characters move too slowly and each input has a frustrating 2-second delay. The split screen mechanic is annoying, especially when fighters move far apart, making it hard to track both characters. Though the funny thing about this is the main draw to the game is actually this mechanic, but I just found it super annoying. Ki blasts have limited range, so spamming them doesn't work. Even with these difficult mechanics, I found myself enjoying the games for their character designs and environments. The pixelated characters were well done, and I got better the more I played. The best strategy was to spam light attacks to slowly wear down the opponent. So I will rate the first game 4 out of 7 Dragon Balls. The second one was developed by much of the same team behind the first game, and they added more playable stages and characters from the Dragon Ball Z films, which is a very smart move. The gameplay is a lot smoother, and when playing as Gohan, I found myself spamming down kick from above in the air. Players can charge their ki gauge by holding Y and B to unleash a powerful ki blast. The mechanics are similar to the first game. You can fly, and the screen splits when fighters move apart. Broly as a playable character is a great addition, but his size makes it tough to hit smaller opponents like Gohan. You need a crouch to land attacks properly. I will give this one 4 Dragon Balls. It's a good game, but it's still a bit too slow for a fighting game for me. Now the third one is probably my favorite out of the 3, just because they have Boo. His attacks and defense are powerful, making the game more dynamic and enjoyable. And it's like a cheat, you know what I'm saying? So I'll give this one 5 out of 7. This game plays exactly like the other board game style entries. I just realized you can actually complete this game just by pressing B, thanks to an auto feature that selects actions for you. I'll give this one 4 Dragon Balls. Dragon Ball Z Virtual Reality Versus was a Japan-exclusive arcade game based on the Dragon Ball Z series, developed by Banpresto and released in 1994. Playing this game is like taking 2 shots of caffeine. It's incredibly fast-paced. It's by far my favorite because of how fast you need to react to enemy attacks. It plays very differently from other games, mainly because it's an arcade-style game. You can choose from Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Trunks, or Gohan, and you're in Super Saiyan mode right from the start. You use A or B to attack left and right, and alternating the buttons triggers combos. When the enemy attacks, you can dodge by pressing left or right. You can also fly toward the opponent or retreat out of range to regroup before attacking again. It's a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend trying it. I'd give this one a solid 6 out of 7. Goku Hishoden is the first handheld Dragon Ball game and the first in the Goku RPG series. This game is quite boring though. The attacks are shown through still pictures and the gameplay quickly becomes repetitive. So I'll give this one 2 Dragon Balls. Buyu Retsuden basically is a Butoden series game, but it's just on a different console. The only thing I prefer in this game over the Butoden series is the faster movement, and that's it. So I'll give this one 5 out of 7 balls. Brit RPG and fighting game that follows Goku's journey from childhood to the end of Dragon Ball Z. The game features 2 battle formats, one with multi-plane movement similar to Fatal Fury, and another where players select attacks from a menu. During combat, blocking and projectile attacks are available, but the mix of real-time and menu-based mechanics can feel clunky. I'll give this one 2 balls. Dragon Ball Z 2 Super Battle is a direct sequel to the previous arcade Dragon Ball Z game. Unlike its predecessor, this game's elements are more similar to those of the Butoden series. I prefer this game over Butoden because of its faster pace. I know I keep saying this, but I just like game when it goes faster, I guess. The combat feels much smoother and each character has a wider variety of moves, allowing players to create actual combos, something Butoden lacked in my opinion. It's also more beginner friendly since every character can perform a simple 4-hit combo just by pressing weak punch repeatedly. I'll give this one a 6 out of 7. Based on the Dragon Ball Z anime, the game follows the story from Frieza's henchmen attacking Krillin, Gohan, and Bulma on Namek to Goku's battle with Frieza. The gameplay is similar to Goku Hishoden, but adds a time limit for selecting actions each turn. Battles take place on a small map where character icons move around, while animated sequences display their attacks. Players must charge power, aim, and strike, with damage values appearing after each hit. It's a decent game for Dragon Balls. This game introduces a unique combat system where characters move toward the center of the screen before attacking. Goku starts at the bottom left while his opponent begins at the top right. Attacks can only be performed at a certain distance, with characters flashing before striking. Pressing L and R together allows Goku to charge his ki and advance more quickly. The highlight of this game, however, is how Goku slowly walks toward his opponent, looking like he's desperately trying to hold in a fart. 4 out of 7 balls. This game stands out for its use of actual cell drawings from the anime's animators, bringing character sprites and pre-fight cutscenes to life. Though more often than not, I feel like I'm playing on a piece of paper. I actually love the character select screen where all the characters are shoved in your face, and then the one you pick transforms from black and white to full color. It's a pretty cool touch. The gameplay is extremely slow, like fireballs and energy blasts crawl across the screen, making combat feel sluggish. They should have stuck with the pixelator character designs. It had more charm and fit the game style better. I'll give this a 2. It's not a good game. Skip this one if you want. This is the second Gokuden released. It continues where Super Gokuden left off. The control is very similar to the first one, and once again, you watch a story through the entire game, you play through battles when time comes, and it covers the start of the 23rd tournament to the end of the Frieza saga. This game was not completely terrible. The overly boring gameplay hurt it quite a bit, but the graphics and sound helped it a little. So I'll give this one a 3. Shin Butoden is pretty much the Sega Saturn's version of the PlayStation Dragon Ball Z fighting game Ultimate Battle 22. Unlike Ultimate Battle 22, this game features 2D backgrounds instead of 3D ones, which is actually a good thing, since the 3D backgrounds in that game were poorly done. A major plus here is the large selection of characters. You can pick almost all the best fighters from the series, and the game is a lot faster than Butoden as well. I'll give this one a 4. Hyperdimension is the closest a Dragon Ball Z game came to being a straightforward Street Fighter clone. It features 10 playable characters, each with unique attacks in addition to basic punches and kicks. The special moves follow button combos similar to Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. For example, Goku's Kamehameha is performed with a down, away, towards, and A combo. The graphics are outstanding though for this console, making the game visually impressive. The game characters and backgrounds closely resemble the anime and manga, capturing the essence of Dragon Ball Z with impressive detail. This gets 6 Dragon Balls. This game could be the precursor to the Budokai series. While it still uses 2D sprites, it introduces 3D movement, allowing characters to move freely in space. Although the backgrounds are a bit lacking and feel empty, the character movements are incredibly smooth and dynamic. The key effects are visually stunning, and the Kamehameha finally appears in full 3D form. The game makes you charge ki like you just tasted the spiciest sauce, man. I'll give this one a 6. A very good game. Check it out. Dragon Ball GT Final Bout is the first ever 3D Dragon Ball fighting game, and it sucks ass. The characters look like those cheap knockoff figures you get from $2 shops. The characters move awkwardly when they go up and down the stage, making it hard to get a good grip on the gameplay. The only element that is cool about the game is probably the clashes between Kamehamehas as the camera starts circling the characters. It looks like the animators got drunk maybe when they're animating this. This big brother gets a solid 2. Okay, so we are now getting into the what the hell is this game territory. It does seem like the teams behind many of these Dragon Ball games were testing the limits of the franchise, trying different gameplay styles and mechanics, but they heavily rely on Goku's popularity to carry the game. If you're not a fan of car games, you might want to avoid this one. It's very slow paced, and back in the day, without a charger or AC power supply, you'll burn through batteries and your patience. The learning curve can be steep, but that's typical for most car games. I don't like this one. I'll give it 1 Dragon Ball. I'm sorry for those people who like this game. Legacy of Goku launched early in the Game Boy Advance's lifespan, but it doesn't take full advantage of the system's capabilities. In this game, you move around in a Zelda-like overhead view, battling enemies. Your basic attacks include punching for close combat and energy blast for long-range fighting. As you progress, you unlock stronger attacks that require brief charging. The environments feel flat and lifeless, the animations are sparse, and the sprites are very small. The moment Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan is quite impressive with solid animation. The way you switch between fighting and flying to avoid damage adds intensity, especially as Frieza evolves. Decent game, but I'll give this one a 3. If you're into RPG, strategy, or adventure games, this one's worth checking out. The early chapters feel more like a card game, primarily because it's a sequel to Super Saiyan Densetsu. However, once the Frieza saga ends, the game shifts into a true RPG. One of the highlights is the ability to unlock and play as various characters, which adds a lot of replay value. The fighting system might not be for everyone, but if you enjoy it, you'll likely get hooked. It may take a few battles to master the basics and develop your strategy. This game earns 4 Dragon Balls. Alright, this game is the first Dragon Ball game to ever be released on PlayStation 2. This series became what a lot of people nowadays call epic. The controls are basic with punch, kick, guard, and energy attack button. By combining punch and kick, you can create 3 different attack variations depending on direction, and holding the buttons makes them unblockable. Special moves can be tricky to land, requiring specific combinations of punches, kicks, and pressing the forward button at the right moment, followed by the energy blast button. While it sounds complicated when explained, it's much easier to grasp once you try the practice mode. Your character starts in a normal state, and by charging your ki to a certain level, you can transform into Super Saiyan for certain characters, or access other forms of power-ups for others. Not every character can power up, which fits the Dragon Ball Z storyline. While many criticize the graphics, I think they're impressive, clean and crisp. Infogrames, the company that did this, they did a solid job porting it, and it did well blending 2 popular Dragon Ball fighting games with a touch of the card game style. I will give this 5 Dragon Balls. RPG elements are more pronounced this time, with leveling up through the enemy defeats, and stats like strength, power, and endurance. While the first game in the series was mediocre, this sequel has greatly improved. I'll give this 5 out of 7 Dragon Balls. Budokai 2 is fantastic, and it features a comprehensive roster of 29 characters, with additional fusion forms unlockable during battles. The story mode takes you through the series' key storylines, unlocking new characters as you progress. The fighting mechanics are simple yet engaging, with dedicated buttons for punch, kick, block, and energy attacks. Special moves and combos are triggered through a series of commands, making the gameplay accessible without complex button twirling. The inclusion of a dodge command is a welcome addition. Visually, the game excels with impressive cell shading, bringing the characters to life with smooth animations and signature moves from the show. The effects and transformations are a lot better in this game as well. And yeah, this is a must-have for your collection. 6 Dragon Balls. Now, this is one of those Dragon Ball games that tries too hard to make the characters look realistic with 3D models. While it makes sense that they wanted to push the Game Boy Advance's limits, sticking with pixelated character designs would have been a better choice. Jumping and attacking often leads to your character ending up behind the opponent, sometimes facing the wrong way. In comparison, the old SNES Dragon Ball Z Fighters had much better movement, allowing for more fluid battles. This one unfortunately gets 1 Dragon Ball. I really enjoy this game. I think the character designs are the most well proportioned, and the effects look better than other pixelated Dragon Ball Z fighters. The ability to move in a 3D-like fashion adds to the experience, and the visual effects when blocking and attacking are especially satisfying. A standout feature is that most of the combat takes place in the air, eliminating the stiff, grounded fighting of previous DBZ games. The combos and special attacks are easy to execute, and it's just an overall fun game to play. I'll give this one a 6 out of 7. Virtually nothing has changed from the legacy of Goku 2, though a few new features have been added. The controls remain mostly the same: A for melee attacks, B for ki blast, L to switch to other blasts, R to block, and B plus R for energy blocking. I really love how the characters react when they level up though. They do these little dance moves that add a unique touch. Graphically, it's very similar to the previous games, with only minor differences in boss sprites and enemy design. While the visuals remain solid, they haven't been drastically improved. It's a decent game. I'll give this a 5 out of 7. This is exactly what I've been waiting for in a Dragon Ball game. Gameplay offers so much variety and stays engaging throughout. Each level has you playing as Goku, running through stages and taking down enemies with a huge range of moves: jump kicks, aerial attacks, power pole strikes, Kamehameha blasts, and ground slams, just to name a few. You definitely won't get bored on your first playthrough. Along the way, you can collect items to boost your max health, power pole length, and ki energy for stronger attack. The graphic is flawless. The backgrounds are so detailed, with the right amount of interaction you'd expect from a solid side-scrolling beat 'em up. This is easily one of my favorite Dragon Ball games of all time. I'll give this a solid 6 out of 7. Detail in Budokai 3 is absolutely stunning. When characters power up, they're surrounded by small tornado-like winds, and the ground shows trails of dirt and sand as fighters are knocked back. Explosions have depth, lighting effects are incredible, and characters glow with green, red, or blue hues depending on their attack. Pure eye candy. The animation flows beautifully, with characters reacting naturally to hits, and the camera shakes emphasize the impact. Transformations feel epic, with the screen darkening as your character hunches over before unleashing a true Dragon Ball Z style power-up. Dragon Rush mode is both Budokai 3's biggest highlight and its biggest flaw. It looks and feels very Dragon Ball Z, with cinematic camera angles and relentless combos, but it relies too much on luck. Both players must choose one of 4 buttons. If they match, the attack is cancelled. If not, the combo continues. 6 out of 7. Dragon Ball Z Sagas is a beat-em-up style kind of game. You will find the controls and dodging a little weird at first, but after the first 2 levels, you will be pretty good at the controls. The fighting is pretty basic. X is to punch, Y is to kick, and B is for your ki blasts. All you really ever need is a single button to fight though. The character models look very, well, at the few brief moments when the camera zooms into a character's face, you can see the low amount of detail and effort put into them. You begin to walk and find quickly how strangely video game characters move. So yeah, not the best. I'll give this a 2. The fighting mechanics in this game are very simple: B for attacks and A for jumping. Combat is made more engaging by allowing directional inputs with attacks to create combos, preventing mindless button mashing. You also have a few extra abilities. R fires rapid ki blasts or charges a stronger one, though this feature isn't very useful. Each character has a signature energy wave move that requires a full energy bar, and aside from occasional odd animations and rare glitches, the graphics are pretty impressive. The backgrounds are vibrant and detailed, while the character sprites are sharp and mostly well animated. This game gets 5 out of 7. Budokai Tenkaichi may share the Budokai name, but it plays completely completely different. The behind the character camera can make it easy to lose sight of enemies, but a dedicated button helps relocate them. Mobility is greatly improved. You can dash, fly in all directions, and even go underwater. Combat is simple yet dynamic, with melee and key attacks, combo chains, and a power meter that when filled, launches opponents far away. When two characters clash with charge attacks, a burst mode triggers, requiring fast analog stick rotations to win. The game includes World Tournament and Ultimate Battle modes where you climb the ranks to become the best fighter. There is also a duel mode for multiplayer battles. This is the ultimate Dragon Ball Z experience. I'll give this a solid 6. If you enjoyed the first game, you likely enjoyed this one too. A big improvement is that super moves no longer pause the screen, though the invincibility during these moves is a downside. Visually, the game shines on the DS, with 3D environments and well done 2D character sprites. Modes like Maximum Mode and Z Battle offer replay value, and even the tutorial as Go Tanks is fun. Once everything is completed, free battle and story mode remain engaging, and it's just a solid sequel, earning it 6. Super Dragon Ball Z is modeled after the manga, which is why the characters look a bit different compared to the Budokai games. The backgrounds are visually appealing and accurate to the series, with a lot of destructible elements in the environment. The game also uses comic-style sound effects like crack and blam and bloom and whatever that borrow from the manga, which adds a nice touch to the overall experience. In terms of gameplay, it follows the typical 3D fighter format. You can sidestep around your opponent, move toward and away from them, jump, and attack. The super moves and ultimate moves are executed using more traditional fighting game commands, such as down forward motions and 360s. Z Survivor mode is where you'll spend a lot of time earning BP and experience for a custom fighter. BP stands for battle power or points, and it's essential for upgrading your character's abilities. It is quite an enjoyable game that appeals to both serious and casual players. Overall, it's a solid fighting game, and I'll give this one a 5. Shin Budokai faces some limitations due to the PSP's hardware, resulting in sacrificed graphic quality, but they still look dope for a handheld game. A new feature, the Aura Burst system, lets player unleash a burst of energy to dash, punch, or stun the opponent. The game also lacks the capsule system from the PS2 Budokai games, which allowed character upgrades and tactical play. Without it, the game misses a level of depth and customization. The main downside is the short story mode, which might leave some players disappointed. However, for those who enjoy quick gaming sessions, this game works perfectly for short playtimes. It gets 4 balls. Oh my gosh, I think we are halfway there. My mind is starting to melt. Tenkaichi 2 is a solid improvement over its predecessor, offering a more refined experience with added modes and features. The combos are expanded, now offering 6 to 7 different melee combos, which enhances the fighting mechanics. The storyline is more accurate and detailed, covering every saga, movie saga, and even some fictional what-if stories created by the developers. The game introduces new modes, including the Ultimate Battle, which is similar to Mortal Kombat's tower battles, with different missions to complete. With up to 125 characters, the roster is massive, though most characters share the same moves. This game is quite balanced and no drama. I'll give this a 6, baby. Harukanaru Densetsu takes an unusual approach to Dragon Ball Z combat, replacing traditional superhuman martial arts with a card-based battle system. Success depends on the number rating of the card you choose. If it's higher than your opponent's, you can execute its special ability. While attacks vary from basic punches and kicks to powerful energy blast, the gameplay mainly revolves around moving across the map and grinding through random encounters. Leveling up has little impact on battle effectiveness, making progression feel hollow. While a card-based Dragon Ball Z game had potential, this entry feels shallow, repetitive, and ultimately unrewarding, rehashing the same tired storylines. It gets 3 out of 7, sadly. The transition from PS2 to PSP in Shin Budokai Another Road doesn't compromise gameplay. Combos remain tight, real-time ultimate moves are intact, and the teleporting ping-pong mechanic has been upgraded into a full chase sequence with a finisher. But the combat feels very similar to the first Shin Budokai, with the main addition being the Aura Burst Charge, which briefly enhances characters with effects like health regeneration or increased attack power. The cel-shaded graphics stay true to the Budokai series, and the charge animation stands out as one of the most anime accurate accurate. Another Road is a solid Dragon Ball Z entry and a strong PSP fighter. It is a good game, but to say this is a massive improvement from the previous game would be a lie. I'll still give this a 5 though. Budokai Tenkaichi 3, or Sparking Meteor in Japan, is the third entry in the Tenkaichi series for PlayStation 2. It allows free flight, easy to execute special moves, and a massive roster featuring over 20 new characters from the previous entries. While it's easy for beginners to pick up, mastering the mechanics takes time. The AI is definitely harder, which is something that everyone wanted in the last two games. And yes, it will take you some time to adapt to it. The basic Blast 1 and Blast 2 and Ultimate Blast mechanics have been perfected. Instead of taking the time to charge, some attacks have the ability to be boosted by pressing square and any of the directional buttons based on what's on screen. Returning players from Budokai Tenkaichi 2 will find familiar gameplay with key improvements including automatic lock-on, automatic taunting, and major additions like Z boost dash and Z counter. So I think BT3 is widely considered the best Dragon Ball Z game on PS2. 6 out of 7, amigos! You control Goku using the touchscreen with double taps making him roll. Attacking is done by tapping enemies to build combos, and as you progress, new abilities unlock including the power pole for stronger attack. The game starts off well, blending platforming with Zelda-style adventuring and entertaining combat. The only gripe that I have in this game is the controls. It becomes very frustrating, especially making certain maneuvers and puzzles a headache. 1 Dragon Ball. Infinite World for the PlayStation 2 is not good. It follows the aspects of its predecessor, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 for the PlayStation 2. The worst part of this game is how limitations have popped in, and this limitation is called the fatigue system. I'll give this one 4 because it's still fun and the characters are enjoyable to play, but it's basically the same game just with the added annoyance of characters getting dizzy mid-game. I love this game because it looks amazing. It's the first Dragon Ball game on PlayStation 3 without cel-shaded graphics, and the 3D character models look incredibly accurate to their anime counterparts. The motion blur really sells the speed of the battles, making the combat feel more real. Burst Limit builds on the Budokai series and introduces new mechanics like drama pieces, unskippable cutscenes that trigger based on battle conditions. While there are many positives about this game, it ultimately lacks content. It feels unfinished and rushed in some areas, and with only 21 characters, it just doesn't have enough depth. So I'll give this one a 4. I wanted to rate it higher, but the lack of content really holds it back. Now this is the what the actual heck game. Like many who saw the live action movie, it was surprising to see a game tie in for it. Dragon Ball Evolution on the PlayStation Portable was widely seen as a quick cash grab to promote the film, but there are still some aspects worth mentioning, some good, some bad, and some in between. It's also surprising that this game was handled by Namco Bandai, the same company behind Tekken 6 and Soul Calibur. Given their pedigree, expectations might have been higher, but whether the game lives up to them is another story. This is a disaster of a fighting game, shamelessly misusing the iconic Dragon Ball name. It takes Akira Toriyama's beloved anime and delivers one of the worst adaptations in recent memory. 1 out of 7 it is, fellows! I think this is probably the best Dragon Ball RPG I've ever played. The pixelated sprite art is beautifully implemented, and the effects for each attack are so good. While the Dragon Ball Z story is well known, this game excels in its presentation, starting from the late chapters of the original series and leading up to the final battle with Vegeta. It's packed with obscure references and unexpected plot details that make it stand out. Like in any other RPG, you can strike physically, use items, run away from battles, and defend against enemies' blows. The presence of Ki introduces a unique feature, allowing your characters to use their special moves. And as you progress, you'll unlock the ability to combine moves when a special bar fills up, causing more damage in fewer turns. As you engage in tougher battles and rack up victories, your characters will gain experience points and AP ability points. With your earned AP, you can boost damage from special moves, improve character stats, or even learn new attacks among other options. A lot of fun replaying this game, and I'll give it a solid 6 out of 7. Dragon Ball Revenge of King Piccolo? What the heck? Dragon Ball Revenge of King Piccolo is a brawler similar to classics like Final Fight or Streets of Rage. Players move through levels, battling foes, with some sections requiring all enemies to be defeated before proceeding. The game also incorporates platforming elements such as jumping over chasms that drain health if you fall, and using levers or handlebars to swing across gaps. While these mechanics aren't anything new, they're implemented well enough to make the game enjoyable. The voice acting in this game is as interesting as ever, with some roles being a hit and others a miss. Pretty much what you'd expect from these types of games. I'd describe this game as the definition of okay. It doesn't stand out in any particular way, but that's not really a letdown since it's not trying to be anything more. 4 Dragon Balls for this one. Raging Blast on the PlayStation 3 brings noticeable improvements, especially in character models and their techniques, which look amazing. The game's interface is a bit unattractive, but it doesn't really affect gameplay. However, the main issue here is the camera. It often leaves you blind to your character's actions, which can lead to frustrating deaths, especially since the AI is quite skilled. It's a 4 for me. The main story in this game is divided into episodes where Goku or his friends fight through environments battling enemies like wolves, Red Ribbon Army soldiers, and pirates. Along the way, they solve basic puzzles like block pushing or flipping switches. Goku can attack using his fists, power pole, or unleash long-range ki blasts and the occasional Kamehameha. While these abilities give him a sense of being a skilled fighter, combat itself becomes very repetitive. You mostly end up spamming basic attacks, which makes the levels drag on longer than they should. But the repetition makes it feel tedious as you progress, and finishing a chapter brings more relief than accomplishment. I'll give this one 2 out of 7 balls. Playing 2-on-2 on the hardest difficulty can prove to be a frantic and fast-paced experience. It is the game's primary gimmick, and for the most part, it delivers it well. The fights are fun but can be problematic at times. Sometimes when you're concentrating on one thing, your enemy's ally will blast you from out of nowhere. But that can be forgiven since it isn't that much of a detriment to the overall 2-on-2 experience. The story mode in Tag Team is called Dragon Walker. There's nothing fun about it. You have certain saga chapters you can play, such as reliving the story of Raditz in one chapter rather than having multiple ones. I think overall it is definitely worth picking up if you were a fan of the Tenkaichi series. I'll give this 5 out of 7. The main game story mode is told in several short missions which progress right from the Saiyan Saga to the Buu Saga. Characters dash toward and away from each other like no other game you have played. Jumps have a nice weight to them, and things go flying by in the background. It is actually one of the most impressive visual experiences on the old Nintendo DS in many ways. Special attacks can be surprisingly cinematic on the downside screens. By default, your 3 special moves and 1 super move are listed in a column and can be initiated by simply touching them. The character select screen, however, is the most confusing thing ever. Like, how the frick do I know the differences between these characters? This game is so addictive and I can't help but to keep playing. I'll give this a solid 6. Okay, it's becoming harder to differentiate between all these recent Dragon Ball games due to presentation changes that feel more like minor tweaks than substantial improvements. The fights begin like typical 2D side view battles, but when things get intense, you're thrown into a frustrating button mashing minigame. This results in endless comparisons of button presses where you either continue an attack or interrupt it by pressing the right buttons. Sadly, this mostly leads to a tedious experience where you spend more time watching animations than actually engaging with the gameplay. And the health or power meter display is freaking confusing. I suppose it fits right at home in the context of the rest of the game. I'll give this game a 3. Dragon Ball Heroes was born for arcade machines in 2010, featuring real cards that must be placed on the table board to insert them into the virtual world and fighting enemies or other people online to complete missions. It was a high success in Japan, soon following a 3DS game called Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission. In card battles, you place up to 5 cards on a grid with 4 zones. The support zone boosts power for the next turn, while the others are for attacking with increasing damage. Each turn, you compete with a meter to deal more damage. There are 5 turns in each battle, and whoever depletes the opponent's HP wins. At the end, you earn a card equipment, and experience for your avatar and cards. The gameplay is straightforward and each battle lasts no longer than 10 minutes. It's satisfying to see your favorite characters perform their signature attacks to defeat enemies. This is simple and addictive. A solid 6. Battle of Z is a beat 'em up with up to 3 players or NPCs battling various enemies. The game features a large roster with characters unlocked after completing stages. Each character has basic melee, ki blasts, and special abilities that vary by type, such as close range for fighting types or healing for support type. Customization is possible through cards earned after victories. The repetitive element in this game is revolving around mashing triangle, dodging, and using special attacks when possible. Stage objectives are simple, like defeating a set number of enemies or surviving for a certain time. So I'll give this a 5. Dragon Ball Z Extreme Butoden excels with its stunning sprite work. The character sprites are large, detailed, and animated smoothly. The game's artwork clearly reflects the talent and passion of the team. As for gameplay, it's a simple combo-based fighter where you memorize and string together combos for rush combos. While it can feel like button mashing at times, there's enough depth to keep it interesting. And overall, this game is a good game. I'll give this 5 Dragon Balls. Xenoverse takes players through familiar events in the Dragon Ball timeline. Raditz, Frieza, Cell, and Buu are all here, along with a few extras. Is there a twist, you might ask? Yes, there is. A mysterious villain is tampering with history, making enemies far stronger than they should be. That's where you come in, creating your own character from 5 playable races: Buu, Human, Saiyan, Namekian, and Frieza race. The combat system is simple to grasp, yet deep enough to allow creative combos. Players can experiment with melee attacks and special moves to discover powerful combos, delivering that signature Dragon Ball feel. Launching an enemy, teleporting, and then blasting them mid-air never gets old. But the game isn't without its flaws. The camera becomes a nightmare again. It's all about the cameras, you know what I'm saying? And the frame rate for some reason struggles when multiple fighters are on screen. The graphics in this game feel a bit off, almost like there's a wet paint filter over everything. While the effects are beautifully designed, this visual style makes them look less impressive than they should be. For a lot of fans, creating a custom character and fighting alongside Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan is a dream come true. But Xenoverse is held back by, in my opinion, some of the worst design choices in the Dragon Ball game, and the frustrating grind to unlock character customization take away from its potential. While the combat is solid and there are fun moments, the game ultimately falls short of being a standout title. So I'll give this a 5. Still a pretty good game. Since the game is entirely in Japanese, I'm not sure what Son Goku and the other characters are saying, so my understanding of the story might be off. The protagonist's mission is to stop villains from the past, present, and future of the Z fighters. These evil warriors are coming from time rifts and must be defeated, so the character you choose must assemble a team of powerful allies to take them on. The gameplay here is simpler than it might appear in videos. The game mixes RPG elements with classic Dragon Ball attacks, though the quick time events can be frustrating. These quick time events feel more appropriate for arcade games rather than a full retail 3DS game. The game's mix of elements works well for a handheld console. It receives 4 out of 7 Dragon Balls. Xenoverse 2 improves on its predecessor in nearly every single way. While the first game is solid, the sequel offers a much better experience. If you jump straight into Xenoverse 2, you'll miss half of the story, but it's easy to catch up with a video recap. However, if you play the first game first, then move on to the 2, you might feel a bit bored since the games are quite similar. If you skip the first game entirely, your character in Xenoverse 2 will essentially be a default version of what your Xenoverse 1 character would have been before you customize them. I'll give this a 6 because this game improved everything without taking the main elements that people love from the first game. Alright, here comes the one. Dragon Ball FighterZ is without a doubt one of the best Dragon Ball games ever made. It delivers everything a fighting game fan could ever want, and it was able to capture the heart and energy of the anime in a way no other game has. So bear with me cause I think I'ma praise my boy a little bit. From the moment players start, the stunning visuals and dynamic animation make it feel like they've stepped into an actual Dragon Ball battle. And what sets this game apart is its insane combo variety, allowing players to tag tag in teammates mid-combo for extended flashy sequences. The game also balances accessibility and depth, offering simple auto combos for beginners while maintaining high-level mechanics for competitive players. The attention to detail in this game is just beyond my comprehension, with explosive mid-fight transitions and cinematic finishes that recreate the anime's most epic moments. Beyond the fights, the game offers a unique story mode featuring Android 21, an arcade mode, and an online arena for competitive play. And I know the story is not the strongest element in this game, but the variety of modes and a lively social lobby keep players engaged. Whether you're a long-time Dragon Ball fan or a fighting game enthusiast, FighterZ is a must-have, standing out among Budokai and Xenoverse titles. With its near-perfect execution, this game isn't just great, it's legendary, earning a 7 out of 7 Dragon Ball. It's literally my favorite game and I will defend it to my grave. Alright, next one. Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission is an action-packed card battling game with automatic battles featuring signature moves reminiscent of Dragon Ball FighterZ. While its technical depth is quite limited, originally designed for arcade play with physical cards, it offers satisfaction in strategic energy management and fighter rotation. Players must stay engaged, positioning their team before each round to gain an advantage and participating in quick time events to enhance attacks or defenses. There is also another game that is like this called Dragon Ball Heroes Ultimate Mission X on the Nintendo 3DS, which we talked about, and the gameplay exactly the same but in Japanese. With over 1000 collectible cards, the game appeals to completionists and custom missions allow for dream matchups. The gameplay balance is not that good though, as victory often depends on having the most powerful cards, which is not that fair. I think World Mission is probably the most polished card entry in the series, packed with content including story mode and online battles. It truly delivers a fun arcade style experience for fans of the franchise. Even for those who don't typically enjoy card games, Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission remains entertaining, earning a solid 6 out of 7. It feels really good to watch your favorite DB characters fight without controlling them, as you can just enjoy the battle. This game excels in every aspect. It can be described as a semi-open world action fighting game with minimal RPG elements. Progression involves unlocking parts of a skill tree through training missions, which mainly consist of enemy battles. RPG mechanics are otherwise limited. The story spans the entire Dragon Ball Z saga through to the end of Dragon Ball Super, with DLCs that extend into Daima, the latest series. The combat is the game's biggest highlight, though the power creep makes even the toughest encounters relatively easy. Seeing iconic anime moments recreated in stunning cinematic 3D adds to the experience as well. The main drawbacks are the game's length and the simplicity of combat. Once mastered, it remains largely the same throughout, making it super repetitive, especially given the game's long runtime. Despite this, the game is incredibly solid, with ongoing DLC support earning a well-deserved 6 Dragon Balls. Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero marks the long-awaited return of the Budokai Tenkaichi series after 17 years, bringing an expansive roster of over 180 playable fighters. Holy moly, bro. While this includes 19 versions of Goku, the game still offers 81 unique characters with distinct movesets. The classic Budokai Tenkaichi combat remains intact, fast-paced, accessible, and reliant on button sequences rather than complex motion inputs, making it easy to pick up but challenging to master. The episode battle mode serves as the game's campaign, letting players relive iconic moments from the series while unlocking branching paths with unique objectives. These alternate scenarios add excitement and replayability, though the cutscenes are underwhelming, relying heavily on freeze frames and simple animations. Character interactions are thoughtfully written, with timeline discrepancies acknowledged in dialogue, creating fun and unexpected exchanges. With a mix of engaging combat, varied story content, and planned DLC support, Sparking Zero caters to both casual and hardcore fans. Whether diving into single player or exploring multiplayer, there's plenty to enjoy. A solid 6 out of 7 Dragon Balls. That's a wrap, folks! Finally, after playing every Dragon Ball game, I think I've had my fill of Goku screaming in my ears for hours on end. I'll probably take a break from all these games for a while. This project made me realize just how many weird and mid-Dragon Ball games exist. It's fascinating to see how different developers interpret the anime and translate it into a video game experience. For me, FighterZ is the ultimate game that lets me live in the Dragon Ball world, but what about you? Drop a comment with your favorite Dragon Ball game. Some of the older ones hit me with so much nostalgia that I'm tempted to replaying it. And let me know if I miss anything. Oh crap, the mobile games! They're good. Goodbye. If you have enjoyed this video, support the channel by leaving a like and smashing that subscribe button for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.